Joining us now, Danya Perry, former federal prosecutor, and Ellie Honig, CNN senior legal analyst, who's also a former federal prosecutor. Ellie, what does it tell us that his lawyers are in direct contact with the DOJ, and what doesn't it tell us?
Well, it tells us, first of all, Brianna, that Donald Trump is taking this seriously, or at least his lawyers are taking this seriously. It is not unusual, I should say, for lawyers, for somebody who's not yet been indicted, to be in contact with prosecutors. It may sound like, wow, that's shocking, but it is quite common because as a defense lawyer, if you can establish contact with prosecutors, you can get perhaps information out of them. They're not going to tell you anything they shouldn't tell you, but you may get a sense of where they are in terms of timeline. You may get a sense of what they're interested in. That is very much in your client's interest. It does not tell us that Donald Trump is certain to get indicted. It tells us that it's in play, and both sides are aware of the possibility.
Danya, look, I mean, this is an unprecedented situation. There's nothing remotely like it in American history, but the closest is the Nixon presidency. And this debate around executive privilege. I mean, certainly weren't a lot of the fault lines made a lot clearer by Nixon v. United States that executive privilege holds, but not in the case of potential criminal conduct or orders?
Yeah, I think this is a relatively easy one, and it sounds like DOJ is getting out in front of it. They're preemptively trying to litigate this issue to get an answer as quickly as possible. So we have the Nixon precedent. That is right on point, and that is not going to be in President Trump's favor. And then we've got more recently, Trump had brought in action when the National Archives was trying to produce documents to the Select Committee. And that was decided by the District Court, the Appellate Court, and the Supreme Court in a matter of just 3 months, where they handily said, no, this privilege is not yours, former President Trump. It belongs to the now current president. So I think for that reason, and also because a lot of the conversations he had were precisely not in his capacity as president. He was not, I mean, it is not the function of a president to sit there in place for 187 minutes and do nothing. So he was acting as a candidate and not an executive. And I think that this will be a quick trip to the Supreme Court to get a ruling that the executive privilege does not apply here.
Yeah, I agree that Donald Trump is unlikely to win in the courts on executive privilege, but the strategic upside there is delay. I mean, we know Donald Trump is the master of the art of delay. And if he does assert executive privilege, and if he can't work it out with DOJ, he'll say, fine, let's go to court. Let's burn another 3, 4, 5, 6 months.
You heard, Danya, what Caitlin said at the end of her reporting there, which is Trump's lawyers are cautioning him it may not be the best idea to be talking to these witnesses. Oh, hello, of course it's not, right? Yeah. But specifically, his attorneys are telling him or have told him that he needs to stop talking to Mark Meadows. Explain why they're telling him that.
I mean, as you point out, yeah, it's not likely to carry much weight with him. He's been told, I think, by every lawyer, and he's had many, not to talk to potential witnesses, not to talk to the press. He goes out there, he makes admissions, and he dangles carrots, and he threatens witnesses. So Mark Meadows in particular obviously was right up close in the president's circle on January 6th, and also, of course, many events leading up to it. So he's going to have plenty of direct evidence that will be of great interest to prosecutors. And it is standard, right, for lawyers to give that cautionary warning to their clients. Don't tamper, don't interfere, stay away, it can only hurt you. But, you know, here we see this once again, and it does not sound like he is heeding that advice this time around either.
Of course not. Ellie, I want to get your take on this new reporting about the DHS and text messages and cell phones. Basically, a new directive apparently coming forward saying, look, we're going to back up the cell phones before we wipe them. That seems too little too late, especially given the fact that this, you know, January 6th again, is not standard operating procedure. You know, there had already been a FOIA request put forward for messages before these phones were wiped. So what's your read on this directive? Well,
having to issue a directive that says we're going to back up our cell phones before we wipe them, I mean, no kidding. They should have been doing this all along. That's the problem, right? I mean, it's standard operating. It should have already been standard operating procedure. It's an embarrassment, continuing embarrassment for DHS, for Secret Service, also separately for the Department of Defense. It tells me that there is at best, mass organizational incompetence. And I think the questions that need to be asked now is, was it something more than that? Was there some intentionality around the misplacement or loss of these emails and texts?
Ellie and Danya, thank you so much for your insights this morning.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Great.
Conspiracy theorist